Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm NBG, and in today's video I just wanted to have a brief discussion about the classes and specs that I'm considering as a main going into Dragonflight. I want to put a couple disclaimers out there for starters. I haven't extensively tested. I've only done a little bit on the beta. I've logged onto them at the start of the pre-patch, hit some dummies, done some world content. I haven't taken them into PvP even at all. I haven't taken them into Mythic Plus or anything like that. I'm kind of saving all of that for Dragonflight. That's just how I feel about it. I'm going to do a little bit more in terms of testing and actually playing the game, I guess, in the second phase when the new Ultimate Dungeon comes out and stuff like that. As we're all really starting to get ready for the upcoming expansion, I will test more thoroughly then. This is kind of just my initial thoughts and a little bit of what I've played in the beta, just kind of how I'm feeling. Now, to go with this disclaimer, I also want to put out there, just so nobody gets the wrong idea, I'm not exactly, I don't know, I'm not an amazing player, right? Like, I'm not a high-end player, I don't raid, that's not my thing. This is just my perspective, right? And I'm hoping with this video to either give you some ideas of what you might want to play, maybe you just let me know what you're going to play, or maybe you can help me a little bit, right? Like, it's just a conversation. So with that being said, as a disclaimer for myself, because you've only seen gold videos from me, I am mostly a casual and rated PvPer. I like to BG. I like to BG with my wife and stuff like that. I like to casual rated PvP with my wife and stuff like that. I don't normally push rating. I will probably in Dragonflight, but I enjoy PvP. That's my preferred playstyle. I'm really feeling like going into Dragonflight, my focus, I would like to get into Mythic Plus. I'm hoping to find a group of people, a guild, maybe people through YouTube, whatever the case may be. I'm hoping to find some people that maybe just want to get into Mythic Plus with me, and that's really what I'm looking to do. It's something I've never really pushed. I've never been much of a PvE guy, but this time around, the idea of pushing Mythic Plus and getting into that honestly sounds fun. So that's kind of the lens I'm looking at this, is fairly casual oriented, mostly PvP oriented, hoping to Mythic Plus. I have other preferences, like I typically play melee in basically every game. That's usually the thing I enjoy the most. I like all around specs. I'm not a big fan of speccing into pure single target, pure AoE, pure cleave. This is raid only, this is PvP only. Like I kind of like to have a mix. I don't like feeling like even if I'm really good at one thing, if I'm neglecting others for the most part. That's just how I feel about. Obviously, the things I play, I'm gonna have multiple builds, but I'm not somebody who's gonna have 10 different builds and this exact build for every exact specific scenario. I'm not into that. And other than that, I enjoy movement based classes for the most part. All right, so with that disclaimer out there, let's go ahead and get right into it. So my goal is to focus on 2 to 3 classes at most. I'm going to start with my first one that is pretty much always my main, and especially going into Dragonflight, I don't know how it can't be, and that's Warrior. And that's Warrior, and in particular, Arms Warrior. I've always been an Arms Warrior. I've always thoroughly enjoyed it, from back in, whether it's, well, granted, I wouldn't say vanilla in terms of Arms Warrior, but really I played Arms heavily in BC, Original, and Wrath of the Lich King, and basically going forward after that. I do like Fury. I played Fury primarily in Shadowlands. I play it when I have to, but I really have always loved Arms Warrior. It's the one that I have the most connection with, and it's primarily because of my PvP background. So when I'm looking at Arms and I'm thinking about like why I want to play it, is I can see multiple builds. Now, I don't have a whole lot of builds saved. I've only done initial looks. Don't take my talent trees right now as being perfect. This is like just going down, looking, putting something together, and just kind of seeing how it works, and that's kind of what this video is about. I will worry about perfecting things going forward into Dragonflight. It's not something I'm worried about on paper right now. So anyway, one of the first builds that stood out to me was a Skull Splitter based burst bleed build. Now, what I mean by that is this is a build that, so first of all, you have Avatar, you know, and you can pop Avatar. Avatar will give you Recklessness, or you pop Colossus Smash or Warbreaker, and that will also give you Recklessness. So not just you have that, but you have this Tide of Blood node, which when Skull Splitter damages an enemy, it causes your Deep Wounds and Rend to expire instantly. So your Deep Wounds from your Mastery and your Rend, which you talent into here, when you hit that target, whatever length of time and how much damage is left on that bleed will be done instantly. And it essentially just becomes, even though this is a physical ability, 30-second cooldown that generates rage, it becomes a burst button. And your whole goal is to get a fat, you know, bleed on the target, both through your Mastery as well as Rend, and then burst it through Skull Splitter. And when you burst it, you want to have Warbreaker on the target so they take more damage. You want to hopefully be into Avatar, and there's other things that go into it as well. And that's kind of a playstyle that I just think looks really, really fun. And then you also have the added like Thunderclap into Blood of Thunder, so like your Thunderclap will spread Rend to multiple targets, so that helps in AoE. Yeah, it has a lot going on, and I like it. So like, just in essence, you know, it's like, you know, like let's say I'm charging in here and I'm building up again. I'm not gonna play this perfect. Let's say I pop Sweeping Strikes, right? You know, I can go ahead and slam to get that Rend, Avatar, Warbreaker, and I can Skull Splitter, and it will get rid of, it'll burst the Rend on both targets. You know, I can have Thunderclap will put it back on both targets. But anyway, I just like the idea of having these smaller 30-second burst windows where I'm just building up and I'm looking to blow up my Rends and Deep Wounds on the target, you know, every 30 seconds, right? So here I am, I'm building again. And I would want to use Warbreaker and Skull Splitter like every time together. I don't think I would ever use Warbreaker without Skull Splitter. And you also want to apply, because it does all the time remaining, you want to apply these bleeds, right? You want to apply these bleeds before you burst. So, like, because you want as much time as possible up on it. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll Warbreaker, and then we'll burst it. And I don't know, it's a really fun playstyle. You know, it's gonna allow you to still get some AoE out. You know, I'm not playing it perfect or anything. I'm just kind of showing the basis of it. You know, don't pay attention to DPS or anything. Like, Gear's garbage too. But anyway, that's just the basis of it, and I really like the idea of having all this damage from your bleeds. And there's multiple ways that this can go further. With Thunderous Roar, I would get Thunderous Roar down to also a 1-minute cooldown. This Thunderous Words right here would increase the damage of your bleed effects by 15% at all times. That says all bleed effects. This is AoE, it does good damage, and it applies a big bleed. Your Mastery is a bleed, your Rend's a bleed. Increasing the damage of all those bleeds will also make your Skull Splitter do more burst damage. So that essentially just fits into that same rotation of like Avatar and Warbreaker and all that kind of stuff. To where you can kind of Avatar, Thunderous Roar, Warbreaker, you know, or Warbreaker, Thunderous Roar, Skull Splitter, you know, your bleeds off the target. Like, it screams fun to me, right? It screams fun. I might end up also picking up Bladestorm just to have really good in PvP, right? That's the primary reason, right? That I don't typically do builds based off of like one specific thing, such as like having Stormbolt. Like, I will never have a warrior build without Stormbolt. That's me. That's my playstyle. I don't care if I'm in PvE or not. I'm gonna have Stormbolt. But anyway, that's just a brief look and a brief thought on one of the classes that I'm considering, specifically arms. Obviously, I do like Fury. I could easily play Fury. I've been playing it this whole expansion as well. And honestly, Prot, even though I've never really tanked, Prot looks really good. I like a lot of their talent combinations. I could see myself being like that noob Mythic Plus person, being like, I want to start from base you know, as a prot warrior, because I think prot looks really, really strong. So anyway, that's my first pick. Definitely arms warrior. Number 2 on my list is another class that I've played on and off for years. Granted, I've normally played marksman, but my preference right now would really be with Beast Mastery. And the reason is one, I'm older now, and Beast Mastery is just really, really easy to play. Like, extremely easy to play. It always has been, but it's just so easy to play. So, honestly, that's part of it. Second part of it is, I actually just really like the talent combinations. I like all the procs. I like getting back kill commands and barbed shots and all that kind of stuff. I just like that. And then on top of that, like you have, I would go like the dire command route, which gives your kill commands have a chance to summon dire beasts, and then you eventually can have dire beasts out a little bit longer. They do a little bit more damage, and then every 5 dire beasts would then essentially reduce the focus and give you lower cooldown on kill command, allow you spam them even more, and then you end up just playing like this zoo playstyle, right? And I think that's really cool, of just like overwhelming the target with animals. Like, it sounds fun, it plays fun, and again, it's easy. And if I want to get into Mythic Plus, or if I want to do something like that, this is a direction I'm leaning. As much as it is very simple, that's actually what kind of makes it fun for me, I guess, this time around. But if you don't know, like, Beast Mastery has a lot going on for it. You know, you have like Alpha Predator, Kill Command has 2 charges, there's other great nodes like Kill Cleave, so while you have Beast Cleave active, Kill Command will strike an additional nearby enemy for 50% of the damage, which Beast Cleave is basically when you use multi-shot. So from when you use multi-shot for the next like 6 seconds, I think it is, your Kill Commands will cleave targets. You know, you have Animal Companion, to where you have an additional pet. You have your auto shots have a chance to give you kill command back. You have your barb shots to also make them stomp. When you activate Bestial Wrath, you'll gain 2 barb shots guaranteed. You have the buffs from barb shot. You have barb shot helping you reduce the cooldown of Bestial Wrath. You have a lot going on for it. I mean, you could definitely go the Cobra Senses route, just so that when you Cobra shot, you can lower the cooldown slightly of your kill command. I kind of think you're going to have enough kill commands. It's not really going to matter. But again, it's just one of those specs that I just think just plays really, really well. So in essence, like, let's say if I'm going in attacking on the target, get a couple barb shots off, I can hit Bestial. Bestial will give me back my barb shot, and then it's a matter of just keeping up your Beast Cleave, which I don't have any weak auras or anything on, and I'm overusing, yeah, I'm not doing this correctly, but regardless, it plays so easy that it makes it fun for me, right? That's something I'm looking into doing, and I'm not spending my focus because I'm too busy thinking rather than playing. But again, it's just a super easy build, super easy playstyle, and that makes it fun. There's really not a whole lot to say here, to be honest, because it's, you know, it's bestial, right? Like, we've been playing the same thing for years, but I really like the idea, mostly, of also getting all those dire beasts when you get the 5 to proc, lowering the cooldown of kill commands, spamming out even more kill commands at less cost. You're going to have a hell of a time just keeping your focus down. You're going to cap all the time. I mean, I guess unless you're... I'll assume you're better than me. How about that? Maybe you won't. But regardless, I just feel bestial, right? Beast Mastery has risen up my list a lot. It seems fun. It seems engaging, but also very easy. And I like the aesthetic for it. And I'm somebody who's also big on aesthetic. I have a hard time playing classes or builds if I don't really like my character, my name, you know, my race, everything. Like, I have to like it all, even the aesthetic of the class, you know, in order to get full enjoyment. I can't just play something because it's good. You know, I can't play a gnome. You know, I can't play a dwarf as much as I try. I really can't. You know, also I have my my hunter here is named Bo-Me, and I've loved that name forever, so, you know, it's easy for me to like it. But anyway, that is my second pick, and that's Hunter. Good news is I'm not big into survival, but I've almost always played marksmanship, so this is a little bit out of the ordinary for me. I typically play marksmanship, but I really like what Beastmastery has going for it. So there you go. Pick number 2, Hunter, specifically Beastmastery. Here we are for pick number 3, and for me, that's going to be DK. DK, but more specifically Unholy. Frost is good. I usually play Frost. I love two-handed Frost. That's something I've always enjoyed. Unholy, again, I like to PvP, so I've definitely always enjoyed Unholy as well. The things I like about Unholy is you have things that are, you know, like your diseases and stuff like that, that can be, you know, dotted and put it on multi-targets. You have good AoE. I like having the pet in Dark Transformation. Kind of like where Arms is right now. I like the fact that Arms has like a bunch of cooldowns. Like Arms has like, you know, I can have Blade Storm, I can have the Dragon's Roar, whatever the hell it's called. I can have Avatar. It also procs Recklessness. Like I feel like I have a lot of, and Warbreaker, you know. I feel like I have a lot of buttons that are meaningful to push. That's the same way I feel about DK, where I can have Abomination live, I can have Unholy Blight, I have Dark Transformation, I have Apocalypse, I have, you know, if I talent into it, which I think I probably would, summon Gargoyle. And, you know, you have all these buttons that all feel meaningful, and then your general rotation of getting your diseases up, applying wounds, and just bursting them is something that I find enjoyable. They have a mix of everything. I like that they're defensive, but they have some range, and they have a little bit of everything. And I've just always enjoyed Death Knight in general. Now, don't pay too close attention to the build for the most part. I do think I would go the Gargoyle route. I've heard that it does really good single target, at least on the beta. So I could see myself playing it again. Again, that's more of an aesthetic thing. I like summoning all the things. You know, same reason why I'm kind of enjoying Beastmastery Hunter. I like to summon all the things. Having another cooldown that I can just throw out there, another big fat summon that I can then bolster and make stronger. Abomination Limb, one of my favorite abilities of all time. I love that that's still in here. So having things of that nature, and again, it's been a while on this, but just being able to apply everything, and popping cooldowns, and just bursting your wounds, right? It's just it's a fun play style. It's just something I could easily see myself playing. Not much to say here. It's Unholy. It's to me, I've always thought Unholy looks more confusing than it actually is to play. But it's one that I think is just in general extremely strong. It's good, right? I like what it has going for it. Hey, where's my pet bar? Why can't I tell him to come back? Come over here, pet. Huh. I don't know where that went. Interesting. But regardless, it's just Unholy. I really think Unholy looks to do really good, especially since I want to potentially get into Mythic Plus. Unholy, I think, is going to do phenomenal in there with, you know, Epidemic and Unholy Blight and just everything that has going on. It looks super strong. On top of that, I also have, kind of like how I have Warrior having Fury as a fallback. To me, Frost would be the fallback of, for whatever reason, I still have Frost to play. And I like two-handed Frost. I think that's fun too. I've never been big into the Sindragosa build, but that's probably because I'm not a big PvE guy, right? I've always enjoyed two-handed Frost. But anyway, that is my pick number 3. Not a lot to say there. I think DKs are in a good spot. I think Unholy is in a great spot. And because of the content I like to do, it just matches up really well with my playstyle. However, I honestly can see myself race changing out of Dark Iron Dwarf. I don't know, man. I can't play dwarfs and gnomes and other things. I'm very much an orc and human kind of guy. I like playing orcs. I like playing humans. Maybe a night elf here or there. Maybe a blood elf here or there. But I don't know, man. I have an issue not being human on this. Does that sound weird? Does anybody else have that problem? I've been Dark Iron the whole time on this since it came out, and I don't know. I think I would like it more if it wasn't Dark Iron. But anyway, that is pick number 3, Death Knight. So last but not least in my picks, it would be Shaman. Now, back in BFA, I mained Elemental mostly for PvP and PvE. Like, I really enjoyed Elemental back then. I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of success with it. Right now, and I've always had a thing for enhancement. I loved it back in Vanilla. I loved it, during Classic. Especially two-handed, obviously, as a lot of people did who played back then. Right now, I see this Storm Strike build. Storm Strike is another one of those weird abilities that's always been one of my favorite abilities in the game. And just having this basically just push Storm Strike build is very much up my alley and something I enjoy. I'm not a big person on totems for the most part, so the least amount of totems for me, the better. And then I love having Wolves up all the time, so it plays a little bit like Bestial. Or I keep saying Bestial, but Beast Mastery. To where like you put up dogs and you keep storm striking stuff and you get back dogs all the time. That's super fun. Having Ascendance is a super strong cooldown. An Ascendance that can build in, and then like while you have go in maybe the Thorms route, to where while you have it active, it'll consume up to 5 Maelstrom Weapon to basically just discharge a free, or not free, but like just discharge a Lightning Bolt or a Chain Lightning, whatever you used recently, for just that much more burst during Ascendance. Yeah, having things like, it's really just the synergies with all of the Storm Strike based stuff, and then Elemental Blast, which I could see getting tuned even more. But having Elemental Blast and being able to stack it up to where you can have 10 stacks of Maelstrom and you can consume all 10, and then spending that on big fat Elemental Blast burst. Yeah, I very, very, very much like that. I like burst. I like mobility. Yeah, so that's right up my alley as well. Again, it's not exactly something I play well, but being able to just kind of go to town, and then what you're doing is you're trying to get these stacks up to 10, that's at 9. So having it up at 10 and then spending that, boom. I don't know how hard that hit. What does it say? Yeah, 18.4k non-crit on that Elemental Blast, I know that's tiny because of my bad gear, but it's really just the idea of being able to build up and then spin that on burst. Like, I'm thinking about in this PvP situation where I'm building Maelstrom, I have an opportunity, and then I unleash it, in a stun or whatnot. So I like the burst that it has. I like being able to just get dogs all the time. I like having a nice big cooldown. In Ascendance, which is definitely a strong cooldown. Boom, 54k, is that what that was? Yeah, 54k with buffs up and whatnot, on that Elemental Blast. Yeah, it plays well. It's fun. You have movement speed and stuff with Doggo. You can, talent into the charge. You have pets. You have burst damage. You have a stun. You actually have 2 stuns. It's very much something I could see myself really playing, enjoying it. I've always loved Wind Fury. I've always loved Storm Strike. Yeah, not a whole lot to say here either. But it definitely has something going for it. And I always have Elemental as a backup. just given that I used to play an absolute ton of Elemental, so it's something I'd be comfortable with. I haven't exactly played a lot of Enhancement in a very long time. I played it like right at the start of Shadowlands as Venthyr, and then for whatever reason just kind of stopped playing Shaman and just started playing other stuff for the most part. But other than that, I haven't really played Enhancement in quite some time, so I like where it's sitting, and I like the Stormstrike based build. It's right up my alley. I think it's going to be good in everything. PvE, PvP. Looks strong. It's fun, you know. So that concludes my short list of things that I'm considering maining going into Dragonflight. So that concludes my list of classes and specs that I'm considering playing going into Dragonflight. We had Arms Warrior, we had Beast Mastery Hunter, DK, specifically Unholy, as well as Enhancement Shaman, all things that I am considering playing. My goal is to main 1 to 2, maybe 3 eventually at the most part in terms of classes that I actually push and really do a lot of stuff on. Unfortunately, I know me as a WoW player, and I'll probably end up playing everything anyway. Especially these ones that I'm interested in. I will probably end up playing them all. I just really want to have a focus on a couple early on. Warrior is almost always my main. I expect that to be going forward because they look too darn good. And then it's a matter of that next 1 to 2 things that I play next and decide to push first. I have a lot that are kind of biting for my attention for different reasons. Honorable mentions. Classes that I haven't messed a lot with, but I've either played a lot in the past or I just like how they play, that I definitely need to get my hands on and play more thoroughly in the second phase of the pre-patch. That would be Mage. I think I've always been a pretty decent Fire Mage, to be honest. PvP, PvE, I've always really jived well with Fire Mage, so that's up there. But actually Arcane, I like the more meme type stuff. I've always enjoyed playing Arcane and PvP, even when like nobody else did. It's just one of those things, and I think it looks pretty strong in PvE and stuff as well right now. So Arcane and Fire Mage specifically are definitely on my list as like I want to play something different from the typical melee. That's like my ranged option. I don't really see myself playing any caster other than Mage. I think most all the other ones don't call out to me for some reason. I don't know. I get bored of casters way too easy. The only one that I've ever been able to play extensively is probably Mage. Mage might even be my second highest most played, like, in the last frickin' 16 years. It's probably Warrior and then Mage for me. So that's why that would probably be way up there. And then a second honorable mention would go to Windwalker Monk. For basically everything I kind of talked about in the disclaimer. You obviously have the movement. You have extremely good burst. I enjoy burst PvP, you know, like I enjoy burst, and then they just have an all-around really good kit. They're just strong, and I've always really enjoyed their mastery, right, of not hitting the same thing twice in a row, and it flows, it feels good. I've never understood why I've never been able to pick one up and just play it like consistently. Every time I end up playing Monk, specifically Windwalker, I play it for like a couple weeks and then I go play other stuff. I don't know why I do that, because every time I think about Monk and every time I jump on it, I go, oh man, I really like how Monk plays. I don't know what it is. I think it's more the aesthetic of like the class itself. I tend to stick towards things that are more of like the classic fantasy things, you know, Warrior, Mage, Hunter, like all those really classic based things, you know, rogue, things of that nature. I have a hard time stepping out and playing like like a demon hunter or a monk or the new, you know, evoker, you know, the new dragon, you know, like all that kind of stuff. Like I've always had problems with stuff like that. It's the same thing like when I go to play like different races on here. I have a hard time not just playing orcs and humans. Like I can't play gnomes, I can't play dwarves, I can't play worgons or trolls or goblins. Like I don't know. I have a hard time doing that kind of stuff. I like the generic the generic stuff, the classes, the races, all of it. I tend to go towards more of the generic choices for whatever reason. It's probably because I'm generic, to be honest. But either way, those are the classes that I'm considering and I'm looking at. I will probably do a follow-up video in the future as we get more into the second phase of the pre-patch and kind of just really talk about my actual plans going into the expansion, meaning, hey, I'm maining this first, I'm maining this second, these are my goals in the starting first couple days, these are my goals in the first week, these are the professions I'm shooting for first, you know, this is the direction with each profession I'm shooting for, because again, we're here to make gold as well. Like, I'll have a video that goes over a little bit more of like my launch plans when we get closer to launch. But right now, I'm just kind of playing this as a side thing. I'm not doing a lot. I'm tweaking and messing around a little bit with talents and just looking at some of the classes that I'm considering. And I can't wait for Phase 2 so I can dig into a little bit deeper, actually start playing the game again, start running some dungeons, start doing some content, just to like get a better feel for everything. That way I can fine-tune exactly what I want to do going forward. So, with that, I would love to hear what you guys think. What do you guys think about my choices? What are you guys thinking yourselves? Have you guys narrowed it down? Do you have it to a short list? What's changing your decision? Or are you somebody who I envy who just has played the same class for the last 15 years and that's just what you do, you know? Like, I have a friend who does that with Paladin. That's like all he plays and he's played it forever. I can't do that. That's not me. So anyway, yeah, I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.